Pelican this morning, so they were down more than they were up during the meeting. So just be patient if they drop off, or if you can't hear, it'll eventually come back.
Everybody good with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah.
Okay. Title up. Randy was able to call in.
Okay, do you see me? I'm on.
Yes, you are. I'm glad you were able to call in.
You bet.
Let's keep an eye on the time here. We're almost ready to call the order here.
Good.
Yeah. All right, everybody, this is Jennifer Nisanoff, and it is 11 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America. With his band, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Right, we're going to do a roll call, and then we're going to, we have one remote person that we'd like to have a motion to vote for. Maybe we could start with that. Bean is remote today. I'd like to see if I can get a motion to allow him to participate remotely due to extenuating circumstances.
I make the emote, Danny Clemens makes.
Okay.
Just sit here and we'll get the paperwork.
We'll do a second here while we get that over. Okay, do I hear a second to allow Dean to participate remotely due to extenuating circumstances? Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
Right.
Roll call. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for participating. Let's go around the table here, and then we'll go around the perimeter to let everybody know who they are. When speaking during the meeting, please identify yourself at the beginning to make it easier for people on the bridge to know who's speaking and for the minutes. And also because we do have some new people here, just so that you can get to know everybody else. This is Jennifer Nisanoff from the Safety and Security Subcommittee.
I got Daniel Potter, the Director of Public Works for Gateway Services.
Edward Chakowski.
Larry Dixon. Danny Clemens, Subcommittee.
Jensen.
Peggy Hall, Rita, and Piggy's.
Bert Russo, Monticello. Andrew Severa. Marty Neckerfeld, PPAC.
Carol Hancock, GSCDD. Nancy Stroud, PPCA.
Bob Gephardt, GSCDD.
Okay, and on the bridge we have Randy.
Yes,
Director.
Randy Bottleson.
Okay.
P-PAC.
And Dean.
Dean Groves, Safety and Security.
And do we have anybody from CDD on?
I'm
Yeah.
here. This is Laura.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, Laura. Anyone
Hi.
else?
And George is here.
George is there.
Oh,
Yep.
good. Hey, Georgia. Always nice to hear from you. Okay. The next thing is public comment. All right. Bob.
Bob Gephardt. I've got two public comments. On the first, I distributed to all of you a copy of the roles of responsibility that were adopted.
There's something there that has to be passed on.
For the Safety and Security Subcommittee. Landscaping back in, I believe it's August of 25th. Just a piece of information so that you know that it is a sanctioned subcommittee and the things you're supposed to be working on. The second thing, and totally unrelated, something I was just made aware of this week, called the Vial of Life. Now, this is something that is given out by the city of Fort Myers. You get a vial that says Vial of Life on it. And inside this, they ask that you put down, for me, it's one list of my medications and my doctors, and another is a list of my wife's medications and doctors. So you take this information, you stick it in the Vial of Life. They also provide a magnetized notification of what this is. that you put on the outside of your refrigerator. And then they have a sticky that goes on your front door glass that notifies first responders that you are a participant of Vial of Life. So that if you're having a problem, you're collapsing, they can know what your medications are and speed your recovery. It's free, great price, and I would make it available and knowledgeable to this committee. And I think we ought to promote it in the community to let everybody know that. I'm sure we call it.
I've gotten it from the fire department, so.
They'll be happy to give it to us. It's a great thing. It's time.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Police department gave that out also, we're taking demonstrations, you know. This scheduled to be here next Tuesday, the swamp things.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I had never heard of somebody showed police. Great thing. It was great.
Okay. What I'm gonna do is write myself a note and talk to Jennifer Lewis to see if we can't get it put into one of our newsletters.
That's cool.
Oh, this is Jennifer Nisnoff, by the way, for the folks on the bridge. Okay, anything else, Bob? Okay, any other public comment? Okay, excellent. All right. Give me a second, I'm just writing Vial of Life here so I can send her a note. All right, next thing is approval of minutes. And we have copies if people need them. Anybody need copies of the minute? Oh, wait, these to be passed out. I don't know if you have some. These are signed. Okay. We have copies of minutes and we can put them up on the screen if people have the need to take a look at them and ask any questions. I was not here, but I do have one or two questions. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bog things down here, but on line 42, it says, Mr. Cohn commented about the corner and triangle of the side of line from that border, but I'm not quite sure which border that was.
Vincenza and
Oh, yeah.
the
Benito.
line clicking down to it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That probably should have been very obvious. I think that was all I have.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Danny Clement seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Thank you. All right, financial report. We have copies for people if they'd like to take a look at this.
So what that is that's something that Bob
Yeah,
had copies made of. That's it's a copy of all of the expenses that were paid out of the 002 fund, which for your committee, there won't be anything in there yet because that was for our fiscal 23, which was the 22/23 expenses. So all of your stuff will be lumped into one line. That will change going forward. You know, now with our new financials, you'll have your own line items and you'll get that a summary report each month as well, beginning with the October financials. So my question for you, because this was presented to the landscape committee this morning as well, and it will also go to ponds and to PPAC. But the landscape committee said, this is very nice, but it's too much information. We'd like to see it quarterly and only with our stuff in it. So is this something that you as a committee would like to see at all? If so, how much do you want to see and how often do you want to see the detail? You'll get the summary report every month regardless, but I don't know about this level of detail if this is something that you're interested in seeing. And it's totally fine with me. Just tell me what you'd like and I'll make it happen.
My purpose in putting this before you today is basically information. There's a lot more information that you can hear. But if you look at the landscape page of it, this happens to outline landscape applicants and all their costs and waterland applicants and all their costs. And what I was just trying to demonstrate to you, that these are so full because this is the entire year. But any dollar item that is charged to your budget will have a corresponding line item in this report, which as we recommend you look at quarterly, but it'll tell you every invoice that got charged to you. So it's a wealth of information that in the past really wasn't generally knowledgeable and available to you, but it is there.
Well, it was available. It was actually, it's in our district
said generally
financials that are
knowledge.
monthly.
People didn't
So
know
yeah,
it.
people just don't look at it. So.
I know it, but most people didn't.
Okay.
So I just want to share.
So I guess as a committee, I'm looking for direction from you. Is this something you would like to see? If so, how often and what would you like included in it?
Quarterly is,
Well-
for instance.
Okay,
Jennifer,
yeah,
Jennifer, this
Yes?
is Dee. Um, I looked at that report this morning and was interested to see the level of detail that's available. But like ponds this morning, I guess I would say it's probably much more information than is necessary. And that said, I'd like to limit our information that we receive to only those line items that are appropriate, applicable to us first. But second of all, those line items that are appropriate, I'd like to start seeing the detail for the first, few months or so. And then maybe after that, we could decide whether we want to continue at that level of detail or go to just a summary detail. Summary
Okay,
of
so
things.
you'll get the summary regardless, but I
Yeah.
will include the detail monthly until you tell me to stop. How's that
That's-
sound?
That's what I think would be appropriate. Like Bob Gepper just said, when you see charges to your account, you may not have any idea what they were if you don't have the detail to back it up. So
And there shouldn't be any
Under
surprises
contract,
when you see the
pretty much
report
the
either,
same
because,
amount.
hang on a minute,
Supplies, individual.
there shouldn't be any surprises when you see this report, because those are all things that, except for like the Wiser bill or whatever that you see on them, we ask for approval before we pay them. So there shouldn't be any surprises in your bill or in that list.
I have a comment and a couple of questions. I agree. I don't know that I want to see this whole thing. It was really interesting to skim through, but there is a lot of information here. And I did notice there wasn't a lot of detail on our committee. Now I understand why. But if I just look at the waterway management services on 568, I guess that's a page number. The account number, does that correspond to the line item on our budget? Is that what you were talking about when you were saying line item, budget line item? So we would have one of these accounts for each of our line items and then all the invoices associated with that underneath that account name?
Exactly.
Correct. Like everything that you see where it says account name and it's bolded,
Yes.
I will make that just for your committee. Like any of the line items that got charged against items in your budget, you will have that detail.
Okay.
So you won't see the
And then-
payroll, you won't see all of those things. You'll just see the things that go against the line items in your budget.
Okay, understand. And then I had another question that is, since we're going to be taking a more active role in managing, I'm wondering is when we are talking about individual topics on our agenda, like today we have a number where we're going to be spending money or proposing to spend money. When we talk about each of those items in the future, could we have something on, I don't know what you call this, called the agenda item summary page that says this money would be charged against this particular account. And then what we would be able to do is have a good forward-looking view in terms of how much we have the actuals, how much have we spent? We'd have a forward-looking view into what we're proposing, just to make sure we don't have too many conflicts and we're going to spend more money than we actually have. And then
Yep, that'll be part
Well-
of the summary. When I provide that, it has your budget. It shows how much you've actually spent so far, how much you've allocated. So like open purchase orders and things that you've already decided to spend money on, and then what's left.
Okay, but what happens if we haven't actually made that decision and we're just talking about it? Like at the very beginning?
If it's an agenda item,
Yes.
and we know where it's going to be charged against, the agenda item will have the budget line on it. It'll say take X dollars from X account. So you'll have that in there.
It will be in there. Okay.
Yes, if it's something
Because
that you bring
I
up
don't
at the
see that.
meeting, if it's something that you bring up at the meeting, obviously it won't be in there because
Oh, of course.
we couldn't plan ahead. But if it's something that is on your agenda and you're going to be talking about taking dollars from a specific budgeted line item, we include
Yes.
that in the agenda item. Yes.
Okay,
But it won't
terrific.
say like, here's what you've spent so far. None of that. That's all included in the summaries for the financials.
No, I understand. I understand. No, that's fine. All right, that's wonderful. Because we don't always do that now, so it'll be really helpful.
We didn't have anything. Yeah, you didn't have anything prior to October, so you wouldn't have.
Exactly.
As a management tool, you have a line, committee wish,
Yes,
$70,000. Once you committed, sign a contract or something, that's the reading.
right.
If you've already spent it, it's paid, it's there. But what you have committed to spend is also the
Right.
reading from that, pending the actual completion of the project. So you'll know you have X number of dollars in that account for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I was just
That's
thinking
what-
about the phase ahead of time where you were talking about a potential and nothing's been committed.
And as you-
So it sounds like we'll have all
That's your-
throughout.
Determine where you want to charge. it.
Yeah.
In your budget.
Okay,
Laura, this is Daniel. Does it show where it's encumbered? Just to,
Let me share my screen quick. So I have to add the encumbered one in here yet, but this is set up for this year. So this is your budget for this fiscal year.
yeah.
I don't have financials for October yet, obviously, but I need to add, I didn't put the encumbered column in there yet, but I will be including that. So right now, what this is saying is here's your budget. Here's what you spent so far. Here's what you have left to spend, but I have to deduct what's encumbered from it as well. So I have one more column I need to insert. So this is what you'll get for a summary. And each of these lines up with a line item in your budget. So you'll be able to see
Thank you.
exactly how you're spending.
Laura, this is Danny,
Terrific.
this is Danny Clemens. In that report that you're showing, can you add the actual account that it's associated with? Because I'm looking on this form that you sent us. There's an account name for engineering services on page 548, and there's engineering services again on page 562. So
Right.
how do we know which one is assigned to safety and
You don't
security?
have one for that. If you look, you don't have one for engineering in yours. There's one, the reason for the two line items for the engineering for Pelican is there's one, the first one that you see up there, I think it ends in like a 51302. That's for Pelican's share of what Tetra Tech does for the district as general engineering services. And then there's another one that the last part is a 51304. And that is for items that PPAC has requested from Tetra Tech to do on behalf of just Pelican Preserve.
But
So
I-
you guys
I-
don't have an engineering line item under your safety and security.
Okay, but as safety and security, don't we have input into items that reflect or involves Tetra Tech?
You're hard to hear, I'm sorry.
Different thing, we might generate gas authorization, something that you specifically want, whether it's Tetra Tech or that safety company that we.
So it wouldn't come under any of the other two engineering specs?
No, it comes
Right.
under
No.
your budget.
One of
Okay.
these.
that's
Right.
okay.
If you guys end up taking on a bunch of engineering that's for some reason, then we would create an engineering line for you, but normally it's going to be engineering for a streetlight project or a road project. And so it would just go underneath that line. And then when you see the detail of the invoices for that line, you would see that reflected there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
And one additional question. In the safety, why is it security contract, there's an invoice for about $2,700. We have access to that invoice to verify it.
yes.
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 And where will we get that from? Who would supply that?
I'll help you.
Yeah.
We get those here. So you just need to
Laura, I'll
ask and I
help
can send it.
In an ideal world, Danny, when it comes to Daniel, he'll get a confirmation from somebody on the committee that that's what you ordered and you're satisfied that it was done right.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on the financial report? All right, thank you very much, Laura.
You're welcome.
All right, the next thing is items for discussion. And the first one is Cypress Grove and Potter Drive roundabout striping quotes.
Jennifer, I have a suggestion.
Yeah,
This is Dean again. Sorry.
Okay.
We have some people that are in the audience and we have someone on the phone, I think from Tetra Tech, that are here to listen and hear about discussions regarding roadway conditions assessment.
AB.
I think Robert H. Is on the phone from Tetra Tech. And if others would be in agreement, I'd suggest that we take item 8B out of order so that they could listen, participate as appropriate, whatever, and then not have to listen to the next 2 hours of conversations of other items if they didn't want to.
Anybody have any objections to that?
No.
Okay, then why don't we do that? We'll jump down to 8B, Pelican Preserve Roadway Condition Assessment Summary Evaluation Report. And that was also part of, oh, here we go, it's right up on the screen there. And just going down to see who's got that one.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Stephen Agapi with Tetra Tech, District Engineer. I also have Robert Harris on the call. He's actually the author of this report, so I invited him to be able to, speak about the report and answer any questions you all may have. So with that, I'll pass it on over to Robert.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time. Yesterday, I was having difficulty with the audio, but before I begin, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, good deal. My name is Robert Harris. I'm the Senior Transportation Manager for Tetra Tech. My background is in asphalt and roadway evaluation. I've been pretty much 17 years in the field. But earlier this year, we were contacted by Gateway to perform a visual condition survey of the existing asphalt network. It was a 16-mile assessment where we walked around and used criteria that's provided to establish a roadmap and maintenance rehabilitation program for the next 20 years. And as you can see in the details of the program, it's the maintenance plan is essentially divided into 3 periods, which span from current year to 2043. The prices that were utilized in the projections are based on current year 2023 regional prices, and they're held consistent, but also projected out based on normal deviations versus time. But what you can primarily see is that the report assessed the current conditions of fair, satisfactory, and poor, and developed a prioritization to address the areas that were indicated as poor and satisfactory first. And then it goes into a regular maintenance program for the rest of the foreseeable future. Beyond that, were there any specific questions about the asphalt maintenance plan?
This is Steve. I have a quick question, and then I'll put myself on mute. I was just concerned that it seemed like with a whole length of roadway would be identified as a certain condition, when in fact portions of that length of roadway, segments of that roadway, are a whole lot better condition than others. And I wonder if by doing that, maybe I misinterpreted, but if by doing that, do we get a picture of a roadway that has some significant deficiencies in parts of it that get lumped in with better conditions, and then it comes out with a higher quality, and therefore the bad conditions don't get addressed until much later in the program. And then the other thing was, I thought, I may have misinterpreted, that it was a 4-year program that was identified, not a 20-year program. So if you could just address those items. Thank you.
Gotcha. So I'll address the second question first. With the 20-year program is the overall arching maintenance asphalt program to take care of Gateway's needs and develop a plan that would take you from the current 20 years and project on to 2043. What was the 4-year plan? And again, let me scroll up and review. So the 4-year maintenance and resurfacing plan was to address areas that were deemed critical or poor, as you mentioned. Now, with the areas that were evaluated as poor from our visual assessment, that
And we do incremental, not repairs, where we would take these sections, then put the road for just a cul-de-sac. Just repair that area. Not the rest of the whole thing.
Okay, the audio is not working.
That's what we had talked to Steve about, that we have alternatives other than totally doing the street.
I'm having difficulty hearing exactly what you're saying, but the gist of what, and I'm assume that you're mentioning it, can it be done incrementally? And
Yep.
The answer is yes.
Okay, so that was the first thing. A second type of repair is that possibly we have alligator cracking down the middle of the street. We may not want to repair from one curb to the other. Then we may entertain a filler substance that would go into that area. And
I see, and that goes back to the first gentleman's statement, whether or not a whole road may be indicated as bad just because you have a segment that may have a prominence of cracking. And in the budget of annual maintenance seen on the, I believe, table 6.5, if you can scroll to that. What we've done is we've broken out programmed maintenance and repair, where you can anticipate about 5,000 linear feet of programmed cracking. Is it in this table or? Yes. So essentially those costs are allotted for, and it is feasible to deviate as you deem wish. The individuals at Gateway deem necessary. A whole road may not necessarily need to be replaced. It could be crack repairs, it could be filler, it could be something of that sort, and we've allocated that into the budget for the capitalized costs, which can be implemented in year 1, year 2, or year 3 as deemed the prioritization by the individuals at Gateway.
Robert, we are Gateway. That's who you're talking to. This group is what's going to control this money. Up until now, we have never allocated money based on a thought process that we would be doing this every year. So for the 2023-24 year, we're going to be catching up on money. But the value of what's in front of us with the scale is that we can allocate money in future years to have a budget to do exactly that.
I see. Good deal. Well, with that, I would say that you guys have been extremely fortunate in that you haven't had to allocate any costs, and hopefully the future would fair as well. Essentially, with our evaluation of the existing network, with only I believe 8% of the roads being deemed as poor, that's a fairly good company to be in.
This is Bob again. Referencing the chart that's in front of us. There's $154,000 for Aviano and $51,000 for Diamante, for a total of $206,000 if I'm reading that. The challenge or the opportunity for this committee would be that instead of just totally doing the full repair at those costs, we may come up with an alternative to do sections of those roads considerably cheaper.
And that is totally up to the committee, and it would be within the parameters provided and deemed acceptable.
Thank you. And that way we can do more within a year. You don't have to limit yourself.
Yes,
Hi, I don't know if it's appropriate to make a comment or something.
just not your name. So
Yeah, my name is Fred Russo and I'm from Monticello. The question I have, first of all, is we talk about crack repairs. Is there any rule of thumb that you guys use in terms of repairing a crack, that it has to be a minimum amount or a maximum size before you can actually use a filler?
Not yet. That's what we're just trying to develop, to answer your question.
Okay.
It's all new for us.
And then going back, I'm not sure I understand when you commented on when you classified each street as needing what degree of repair. You gave a general classification for the entire street, but really, most of us know that the cul-de-sac or circle gets all the wear. It's because the truck's going around with centrifugal force, always pushes the pavement to the curb. And I don't know whether you classified the circles as different than the rest of the roadways.
Gotcha. So we did notice that during our evaluation that the roundabouts featured significantly more wear and tear of pushing and asphalt rutting in comparison to the normal roads. And it was noted in the qualitative asphalt conditions survey results. And I believe that's page 6 of the report, where we began noting the qualitative condition. It was a visual condition survey, but in terms of just purely breaking out the roundabouts from the normal road, that was not done on this report. And the roundabouts were included in the overall roads.
As an HOA president, I'd like to submit that you got to look at the roundabouts separately, because I have pictures of cracks that are 3 inches wide consistently throughout the entire circle. There's a few people here have seen it. If you guys, just to give you a point of reference, this is a ruler. Okay. You can see a 3-inch crack is in trouble. The other issue is that the surface of the road now is below the top of the swale. So engineering wise, the swale is supposed to pick up the overflow of water. It can't happen when it's higher than the roadway, and that consistently wears down on the surface. So we have a significant problem.
I have a question that kind of piggybacks off of your first question about how big a crack needs to be or how small a crack for filler. And I understand that that's something we might need to talk about, but I wonder from Tetra Tech, are there guidelines in terms of best practices, saying as long as your crack is no longer or no larger than whatever, because 3 inches to me sounds large, but I don't, I'm not an engineering person. So are there any best practices that would say if it's bigger than this or longer than this, or the square footage is something that maybe a filler would not work? Many of us have lived up north where it snows, and they fill potholes and they just fill the pothole and you could get it right back, the next year, because it isn't effective long term. So I'm trying to see what kind of guidelines or best practices are there for what you're talking about.
Yes, there
Yeah.
was a.
I understand. I
That's
understand.
why, exactly. We have this report as a guide
Yes.
and how the committee can consider that and then come up with your own recommendations, possibly prioritizing a number of cul-de-sacs over maybe
Right.
Diamante. And that's why, that's the whole purpose of this today, is to have this discussion.
Right. So I think we have to, one, decide whether we're open to something like that, then two, start talking about priorities and how do we go about implementing them. I was just kind of curious because the examples that you gave, I don't know, with the exception maybe Dean, we might not have the right knowledge to
That's
do
why I
that.
have the
That's why.
photos that I
Yeah.
thought would be important. If I could just make one other comment,
Uh-huh.
that it has been suggested by some folks that we possibly looking at all of the circles and roundabouts, and when they need repairs, to move away from the standard asphalt that we're using right now and go to a different material, because we know this is going to happen again and again, and consider it some kind of a concrete mixture on the circles to give a more of a permanent fix.
Fix it once and fix it right.
Yeah. So I don't know whether you guys have ever looked at that.
And that's the Tetra Tech that you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so they know that it's their question.
All right, so I'm going to field 2 or 3 points. First, and primarily, if you go to page 9 of the report, of the asphalt summary. My apologies for not clarifying that.
Okay. We'll get there.
What's it labeled as?
Yes, it's starting there.
There you
This is the qualitative survey results, and on the results, as you can note, there is just details that indicate the conditions of the roundabouts for each roadway condition. We noted that there was patching at the roundabouts, pushing, or whether or not the cracks or ruts or raveling existed. So that was a list of the criteria that was utilized. Now, in conditions of whether or not the standard, the asphalt evaluation criteria is based on the FDOT Pavement Condition Index, which provides the parameters for length of cracks, the size of the cracks, and the rutting. And that was all incorporated into the report of the visual condition analysis that we provided when we walked the 16-mile asphalt network to generate the visual condition index. The other portion as to whether or not a different type of asphalt could be utilized at the roundabouts, and that question is a fair and valid question. And I believe, yes, you wouldn't necessarily utilize a concrete, but what you could do is utilize like an FC 12.5 or an higher polymer asphalt that is used, or it's designed for the pushing of the large trucks, and you don't see as much rutting or cracking as you would an FC5, which is what you have out there.
This is Danny Clemens. Can you repeat the index that you were talking about for the chart?
Talking about the Green Book, the FDOT Green Book. Robert.
The index, yes.
So the FDOT has a standard that is already published. It's a 2018 model. If you look and Google up FDOT Green Book, that is what that it's all the traffic.
There's no audio.
Robert, if you're talking, we can't hear you, and it's possible that we lost the room again.
10-4. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Good deal. But essentially, the report set the parameters for the repairs and maintenance of overall, and essentially, you all may evaluate and deem as necessary in terms of the prioritization of the repairs that you deem necessary.
Robert, we lost the room there. Their internet is really bad in that room, and they've been bouncing on and off meetings all morning, so we'll have to give them a chance to catch up with us. If you see a Daniel Potter pop back on, that means they're on because he's the one running the meeting from there. So right now they can't hear us.
10-4.
This is Randy Bottleson. I'm on the PPAC committee. And we ultimately get responsibility for approving any of these projects. Now, as I look at this, I had some of the same questions Gene had. We've got 40 streets located on the table that I had printed out with four categories, which led us to believe that this is like a 4-year project. Now, we did one road, a relatively short one in the Avila neighborhood in the last year and a half. After all the costs were completed, it was about $200,000. So our budget this year is $100,000. Now we have a lot of unassigned reserves that we can tap, but I'm not sure from what I've seen here, or how do we get started? If a road is in poor condition, how many years does that mean that we can wait to do that? Or if it's in fair condition, we have got to have some kind of a starting point that we have to identify and assume there's going to be at least the similar cost that we had paid for before to get us started.
10-4. So if the breakdown was the initial 4 years was to address the roads that were evaluated as poor or critical condition.
So that was your idea in the 4 years to get
Yes.
those that were in poor condition.
Correct.
And then we start in on the ones that are in fair condition.
Yes, and that can be addressed via a annual maintenance program where you evaluate and you say, example, this is just an arbitrary example. You see 1,000 linear feet of cracks down a road, and you program in that amount to be addressed on an annual basis on the roads that are identified as fair. And therefore, those roads are addressed and maintained as fair, and a full resurfacing effort is not needed. So again, out of clarity, the first 4 years were just to address those roads that were identified as poor and fair, not the whole 16-mile roadway network. And there's leeway into sliding that down in terms of prioritization or modifying the whole scope of the roadway, or to just address the roundabouts and crack repair. We were brought in with the intention that an overall maintenance plan needed to be established for all of the roadway networks as a general parameter, to provide an all-encompassing plan. In the framework of that plan, Gateway can do as they decide or they deem necessary to provide their clients or their residents with quality roadways. But the recommendations were set forth to address in terms of prioritizing the need. That was the genesis of the plan.
So I see 9 streets that
Oh,
have
wait.
fair or poor condition. Based on what we'd spent before, then we need to allocate like $1.8 million or somehow budget $1.8 million to complete those in 4 years.
Are
50,000. Yeah, because each of them were about 40, 45, 50,000. So yeah, that's probably about right.
But that's if we do the entire
Right.
street, but if we
Absolutely.
parcel it out,
Oh, absolutely. I understand. But I suspect he was talking about the entire.
Randy missed that comment.
Okay, welcome back, everybody on the bridge. Is Tetra Tech still there?
yes.
Okay, you probably missed part of the end of that. We're going to have a sub-team that will talk about this and how we're going to go about incrementalizing this a bit. We're also going to ask the community if there are any volunteers who have some background on this that might like to join that committee.
Good.
And finally, thank you so much for joining us today. We really greatly appreciate not only the work that you've done, but helping the entire team understand a little bit more about what it includes and what the potentials are. So thank you very much. You are welcome to stick around, but if you have other things to do, we totally understand if you need to leave.
Thank you all.
Yep, thank
Jen,
you.
Could
Yes.
I ask one question before they do sign off again?
Certainly.
Sorry. Robert, would you opine on the value of seal coating the roadways? Is that a cosmetic application, or is that a pavement preservation technique, or both?
My opinion on seal coating is that if you have a road that's been structurally sound for the past 20 years, seal coating can be more of an aesthetic preservation issue. If you have a structural or foundation issue in a roadway, seal coating will not address that, but it would preserve and provide an aesthetic value for the residents. Everyone sees a seal-coated road and they think it's, oh, you have a new road, but essentially you've just placed a Band-Aid over structural issues. But on the same token, it does work to preserve roads from damage over time. So I have two opinions on that. If you have an issue with the roadway, seal coating does not affect or prevent further degradation of that road. It must be addressed. But number two, seal coating can prevent and preserve issues such as rutting or further pushing. It's kind of a Schrodinger's cat type situation where it doesn't prevent further issues, but it is a preventative measure.
Let the subcommittee buy them out along with everything else. Come back with that.
Mhm.
Thank you, Rob.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, anything else before we move on? All right, shall we go back to Cypress Grove and Potter Drive roundabout striping quotes? You could maybe bring those up.
Which,
The Cypress Grove and Potter Drive, that one.
7A.
So,
Yeah. Like a picture and some. Okay. And who's got the lead on this one?
I'll start and others can chime in as need be. Last meeting, we had these items on the agenda and we talked about them for a length of time. We had multiple quotes for the pavement markings and a single quote for the signs for this roundabout project. So McShay Contracting was the recommended firm for the pavement markings to be implemented. Lycan's signs at $26,160 is an updated quote. They were the only ones to have quoted at the time. They updated their quote to correct it to include that the poles, the decorative poles, were going to be black painted instead of gateway green. But they also added in an allowance for temporary signage if needed, assuming that the pavement markings went in place and the signs were not ready, permanent signs were not ready to go in. We needed to have some sign. This morning we got another quote from another sign company that was competitive with Lycan's, but a couple of $1,000s more expensive. So it would appear that McShay Contracting and Lycan Signs would be the recommended contractors for pavement markings and signs.
Okay.
what action do we need to take?
Well, we put it on hold until this meeting. What we would need to do is get a vote to recommend to PPAC that the award to McShay and the award to Lycan's be approved by PPAC so that Gateway can proceed with implementing this project. The project has been designed by Florida Transportation Engineers and permitted. The permits need to be picked up by the contractors, the contracts that are awarded, and then it should be ready to move forward. And with some luck, it might be implemented before the end of this calendar year.
Dean, this is Randy. If I could respond to that. At the last PPAC meeting, we did not have a forum, and so we were not able to vote. But we made notations of this specific recommendation, and it is kind of on a list that we're going to be able to get through quickly in terms of voting. There's no reason to believe that it won't be a positive vote at that time.
This is Ed Chikowski. I have a question, and it kind of relates to the bike lane markings and this the roundabout pavement markings.
Yes.
In looking at the roundabout pavement markings, I don't see any bike lane paths in there, and I'm wondering, are Is that and then, is that, should they be there? Is that something that was missed, or is it, or
No,
roundabouts don't have bike lanes? I
no,
don't know.
you're right. Ed, this is Dean. Good catch. The roundabouts typically would have a concrete pad from where the bicycles would exit from the bike lane and have a ramp actually to a portion of the sidewalk where right in the vicinity of the roundabout, and then another concrete ramp at the end of that where they exit and go back onto the bike lane, so that the bicycles do not go through the roundabout itself. They divert off the roundabout onto a short section of sidewalk and then back onto the roadway into a bike lane. And that would be addressed with there's a separate proposal that we're going to be talking about shortly regarding the bike lanes at Pelican Preserve.
And these have taken different steps. The first one being refreshing of markings that has been taking place over the last week or so. This bike lane is separate from the roundabout itself. So it's kind of three separate projects that seem to kind of get tied together as far as the painting part of that construction.
Dean,
Yes.
that's going to be Randy. Are both of these proposals going to be before PPAC next month?
That's the intention. McShay Contracting and Lichens for signs, yes.
And the bike lane?
If we recommend, yes.
Okay, so this group hasn't recommended the bike yet. The roundabouts and the signs are recommended.
Yes.
Okay, so for this one, I don't have the sheet in front of me because I didn't print everything. On the goal of this particular agenda item, was it to vote to continue to recommend and send it to PPAC? Or since they've already approved it, this is just informational? I don't remember anymore.
Well, yes, it's
going to be, it's on the PPAC committee. It's already going to be on the PPAC agenda.
Okay.
So the page.
Yeah, the agenda item summary sheet.
Well, I think the only way to do it.
Yeah, click on that one.
Is 7A. 7A is already.
That's it. Thank you.
7B is the one.
Okay.
This one is before PPAC now, or will it? You've already approved.
You know, it wouldn't hurt just to have motions on both of them.
Yeah,
We
just,
know that they're gonna be.
Okay.
yeah, I think that's a great
It'll
idea.
take
So
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
this is Dan, what are we approving? With McShay Contracting and Lichens?
Yes.
yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Make a motion to accept McShay Contracting and Lichens to proceed with the pavement markings for the roundabouts
And the signage.
and the signage. That's Danny Cummings.
This is
I'll
Jennifer. Oh, go ahead. This is Jennifer Nisanoff. I'll second. All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, then that's passed to recommend to PPAC to be put on the next agenda. Moving on to the bike lane markings, which we, thank you, that we also need to discuss, make sure we're good with, and decide whether we want to recommend that to PPAC. Let's see here. Submitter was Chelsea. But who's going to take the lead on talking through this? Is that Eugene?
Yeah, it's Dean. I'll take care of this one too.
Thank you.
That's okay. You'll recall several months ago, the PPAC board had voted to establish formal bike lanes on Pelican Preserve Boulevard, Cypress Grove Drive, and Prato. there was a lot of discussion whether or not the bike lanes needed to wait, or whether or not the refreshing of the pavement markings needed to wait until a decision was made on bike lanes. Tetra Tech had submitted a task authorization in the amount of almost $46,000 to do some measurements of the pavement from the shoulder widths, to develop the plans and permit the bike lanes. This committee objected to the $46,000 number, and we went to Florida Transportation. And Florida Transportation came back with a significantly different number, which has been updated as of this morning for bike lanes on those roadways to approximately $18,000 versus $46,000 for Tetra Tech. So what Florida Transportation will do is develop plans, specifications, and design for the bike lanes within the 4-foot shoulder of Pelican Preserve Boulevard, Cypress Grove Drive, and Prado Boulevard. The 4-foot wide shoulders are sufficient to meet City of Fort Myers requirements for bike lanes. So, so they've got some work to do, about $18,000 for design, permitting, and construction services.
As an addition, quotes have been received from D&G, I believe, and others for the paint, the construction, the painting of those icons.
Well, they had developed a quote, but they didn't do it on the basis of a design by FTE or by Tetra Tech. So they gave an opinion of what they would do. And so what would be next is Florida Transportation would design the bike lane configurations, the pavement markings, the signs as needed, would get it approved by the city, and then we would get updated quotes from whomever the vendors are that would do this work, whether it's DG or McShay or anyone else.
It's just the design. They're not actually doing the physical painting of the line.
No.
That's an additional cost. So, great. Oh.
Yes. Are we still obligated, and this is Peggy Hall, are we still obligated to consider the Tetra Tech because they're the preferred vendor?
No,
No.
Nope.
No, we'd rather use that money for other projects. That excess of costs, we'd use it for other projects.
We were able to not have Tetra Tech do this because this is a specialty that FTE does. And Tetra Tech doesn't have anyone local that has a specialty in this. So that's how we were able to use them instead of Tetra Tech.
Thank you.
What other questions?
so to Ed's point, this is just the construction of the engineering, and then the cost would be actually good. We need a motion.
Okay. Do we have a motion to move forward with this and recommend that we do this engineering study? This is Jennifer. I'll make a motion to approve this and send it on to PPAC with the recommendation to proceed with the Florida Transportation Engineering proposal to do the engineering work and planning.
I'll
Do I hear-
second.
Okay, here a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So moved.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you for your help. All right, we're going to move on now to member items and report. The first one is the Benito Vicenza traffic calming update, and we're going to bring that up. And we do have the president of the HOA with us. Kit, would you like to tell us
you all
what's happening?
the
Yeah.
history of this?
Mm.
It's the Vicenza initially just requested a traffic calm, and the city of Fort Myers gave us some speed bumps. We didn't want them from the beginning, and we seemed to get really berated for it. We wanted to stop something, but that's not possible. Randy and Dean have really worked hard, and maybe other people are coming up with another solution. So the speed hump is a better solution that seems to be the most cost
Sorry.
And quieter.
and quieter.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Like that. It's certainly more attractive than the current rumble strips, and it will prevent people from driving around them and up on the lawns. This required an approval by the majority of people in Vicenza, and I have 25 signatures here out of our 30 homes. And that's only because 5 people aren't here. So I think we have an overwhelming majority of residents that would like this to happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do we need them officially submitted to the committee, or
I'm sorry?
do we need those authorizations officially submitted to the committee?
I don't know if it needs to be officially submitted, but we do
I think
need
it
that
does.
information.
I was
Okay, we do.
told to do
Okay.
this.
Yeah, this is Randy. I'd like to address that. Early on, when discussions were talked about, where everybody was asking us to take those rumble strips up, the city made it clear that they that nothing could be done without the 20 of the 30 homes in the neighborhood approving any kind of action toward that. And despite the fact that nobody liked the rumble strips, it took us some time of investigation to come up with different types of rumble traffic calming options that we could take a look at. And they all have a varying amount of expense to them. We also have to be kind of cognizant of the fact that there were people who from Gator Golf who came and told residents in our community that rumble strips were hurting their golf carts. And this started the business of driving around it and those types of things. They also said that many new golf courses are not putting in pavers any longer because they're rough. And that might have some issue with the golf carts. Now, I don't choose to own a golf cart, so I'm not very familiar with them, except when I run to golf myself. But we do have, I think, a couple of options at varying costs. So what we'd like to get proposed is we agree that we bring to PPAC some different options of a Fort Myers approved speed hump for that 15-mile-an-hour street. And then kind of a to be decided in terms of what different options might cost us. So the lowest cost option is the first one you saw, that was just a concrete, smooth concrete with the directional signs on them. You can also get stamped concrete, so it's got some decoration in it, but it goes from like 10,000 to 20,000 in previous quotes that we've gotten over the last months. And brick pavers, we don't know yet. However, the idea is to try to get this is something that everybody's behind, and we agreed to start moving forward with the appropriate types of plans and backing from PPAC in the budget to accomplish this. The neighborhood is then willing, we get that done, the neighborhood is willing for us to take up the rumble strips. And then, because the main thing here was to address a traffic, an issue with speeding at this particular intersection. And there was some benefit to the rumble strips in that respect. We just didn't anticipate, or it wasn't anticipated, that the noise and some of the other issues would come up.
Okay, you cut out on us, Randy, at one point. I want to make sure we're all really clear on the options that you were talking about, because we had the option of having 1 versus 2, and I think we had settled on 1.
Yes.
And then with pavement, I mean, with pavers, without pavers, and I thought our recommendation was without pavers. Yeah, and so what were the other options that you said we needed to discuss? We might not have heard you.
Okay, so.
Our internet keeps going down.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, to begin with, I brought up that first picture that I found. Dean afterwards brought up the pavers. So.
Okay. So those were the.
We needed, to have some discussion on that among the group to get people's feelings out about that.
Okay. My recollection is we've discussed that, so maybe we just need to make sure we're still in sync with which option we'd like to recommend. And that was having only one of those devices. It would be between Pelican Preserve and that intersection. I can't remember if that's east or west or whatever it is, but that's where we were going to put it. And we were going to do it without pavers.
That is, Jennifer, that is correct. It was gutter to gutter speed hump, just a single speed hump.
Right.
And the city standard one is made of concrete. And that was at a construction cost of approximately $10,000. Subsequently, an option that I presented with pavers, which you saw some pictures of a moment ago,
Right.
is essentially the same design. It's got a 6-foot ramp. It's got a 10-foot level piece at the top, and then a 6-foot ramp down. That's the same design as the concrete. It's just a different material. We don't have a comparable cost for that at this moment. I personally think that it ought to be similar to a cost that we're seeing for brick pavers at entryways into Casella, or brick pavers at entryways into Matarita. It's essentially the same. It's brick pavers on top of some sort of sand, on top of some sort of limestone with concrete band all around. So it's relatively similar, other than it's got a raised portion of it, but it's basically the same. And I think that it's worth exploring and getting some comparable pricing, because aesthetic, I personally think that the pavers are much more attractive, but functionally they are the same as whether it's a concrete or pavers.
So if you would choose to want to make a recommendation, you could certainly do that. We have a pretty good idea that the concrete one is going to be around $10,000 construction cost. I think it's safe to say that stamped concrete is, we saw that being $20,000. And quotes we've gotten for brick pavers in an area, Matarita 2 is an example. Recently, one quote was $17,000.
We lost them, Randy. They dropped off again.
Okay.
I'll have to hang on, wait for Daniel to come back. This is how it was during the landscape meeting too. They do have a recorder in the room. I ran over there and dropped one off. We have a little digital recorder in the room. So at least any discussion that they're having will be picked up on their side during the time when they're not online. And then everything that we're discussing is being recorded. So you should have it all here. But you'll have to wait for Daniel to come back on.
Randy, I know that you're kind of laid up right now, but in your experience,
Side
have you,
of the-
I don't think.
Oh,
the
they're
residents
back.
of the
You guys
city
are, we
want to
lost
follow.
you guys for a while there.
No, that's not gonna work.
Randy had come, he was discussing,
Wait, we
the-
or have too many people talking at the same time. I'm sorry, you probably just can't hear each other.
yeah, no, I just say we lost you guys. Randy was talking and you guys dropped off. So I know you didn't hear anything that he said.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let me just try to quickly refine this.
Okay.
That picture of the concrete is in a location just off of County Road 82 that I found, and you know, talked with Dean about, talked with the engineering firm about, to get kind of a feedback that this is standard Fort Myers design for a speed hump. We also then brought it to Kate O'Hara Cohen to get her feedback and to see whether or not this is something that she thought with the comfort that the community would get behind. And from our standpoint, after all the disappointments we've gone through, that was really the number one priority. Let's get something that's acceptable to this neighborhood, because it affects everybody in the community who's going to town center. But we needed to have that buy-in, because it's been told to me by the city transportation engineer that we need written authorization from a majority of the neighborhood. Subsequently, Dean found, you know, the paver bricks as an option. So I guess the question here is, do you vote today about sending one proposal, or do you vote to move forward with a design, a speed hump design with the cost to be determined?
Okay, to finish that thought up, I think Kate had something she'd like to say, and Nancy's on, I think, next to say, if she still has something to say.
The photograph and plans that I showed the residents was not the pavers.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes a difference, but what they saw improved was the smooth concrete.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
There was some discussion, and I don't know if our internet was on or not at the time, but right now, the vehicles that go around the rumble strips, many of them have told me they do it because it messes up their suspension if they go over them. And I think with the speed table, that should be resolved. I'd be hopeful that they wouldn't try to go around the speed table.
Many of them are SUVs.
I know.
And I almost got hit twice. And that, I think, is actually pretty visible.
I heard the suspension.
Now, they came.
Yeah,
on the side.
Yeah, we can all talk about that going on, so I'd like to propose that's the rationale people are giving, whether you agree or not. That's neither here nor there at this point. I'd like to make a proposal that we approve the design as is, because we do have the approval from the community, and that will help us move forward a little quicker, because this has been open an awfully long time. So I would like to propose that we do make this recommendation to move forward with this design and send it on to PPAC for approval. Is there a second?
I second Danny Clemens.
This is Laura, can you please clarify what this design is?
Oh, the one with the speed hump without the pavers.
Page
The
66.
concrete speed hump.
Yes.
That's in the first picture. Okay. And then I have one more request. Can you please be sure that that paper with all the signatures on it makes it back to our office? Because we will most likely need that when we apply for the permit.
Okay.
Yes, the idea was Jennifer Lewis had agreed to keep a file and hold that for us until we are ready with the permits. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
And
at
Bob,
that
did you have
time, we
something
may
before
have-
we voted? Oh.
The only comment is I'm thrilled with the move. Absolutely thrilled. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't offer the opportunity of the favor to the community to either vote up or down and then take direction from that. Because from an appearance point of view, I agree with Dean. I think the pavers look so much better and in keeping with the Pelican community. But I don't want to go against the wishes of the neighbors. So I would like to see if they could reaffirm that they don't care one way or the other, that it just becomes an economic issue.
Could we compromise and that you make the motion that you would like to move forward with a speed hump? And then we can get quotes for both the concrete and the paver versions, and then we can let them decide based on that.
Excellent.
But then you have to go back to the.
Yeah, it should go back.
No, let's make this clear though.
Oh,
PPAC would have to make that decision.
Well,
Okay.
your committee would be responsible for getting
Bless you.
the quotes and making a recommendation. So we would have to, I don't want to take this to PPAC just saying they want to move forward with the speed hump. But we don't have any idea what it's going to cost. So we need to have everything done and ready to present. So we would need to have quotes for the speed hump, both the concrete version and the paver version, if that's something that you're entertaining. And then you as a committee would make the recommendation to PPAC for exactly what you would like to do.
With all due respect to the neighborhood, it's going to affect 2,500 homes. And we need to consider all 2,500 homes too. Certainly consider that. I agree with it. We need the hump. We're going to do that. Now it's just a question of what it's going to look like. That'll be a separate discussion.
And this is Danny Clemens, one last comment. You can also do concrete stamping as an option.
And we know what the cost would be. We know what the cost would be on that because we've gotten a good estimate before. Not a quote, but a good estimate from the stamp.
Okay. Hey, you look like you wanted to say something. No? Okay, so should we take the compromise and first say we do want to go ahead with the speed hump? We will then go and see if we can get the costs for the two various options with the pavers. Oh, with the pavers, without the pavers, with the stamped concrete, and go back to the community, see if it matters whether it's pavers.
No, I'm not in favor of going back to the community.
Okay.
We've given them a good option, and they're all behind it. They're all behind and I think Kate will tell you they're enthusiastic about affecting that change. This now looks like another pause, another bump in the road, if you will, where it's getting dragged out.
Well,
again.
That's why I had the original proposal to let's move forward with the design that we had. So the committee needs to decide what we want. I mean, I'm good with going with what the committee is saying with the advice of everybody around here, but everyone,
Okay.
well, let's do it one by one. Everyone agrees.
Canvass the committee again.
Okay, well, how about if we break it up? Let's have a motion that we agree that we want to move forward with the speed hump as a concept, and then start talking about a second one where what do we want to do in terms of the actual design? Yes.
That could take 3 months to get that. I think we can get it done faster.
This is Ed Chakowski again. Is the issue, does it come down to cost at this point? Would everyone prefer either the pavers or the stamped concrete if they were more than enough charge over the plain concrete?
I don't think so, because I think there's a potential noise consideration.
But we're not gonna know anything about the noise by waiting a month, 2 months. We're not gonna know anymore.
Well, didn't we have examples of with and without that we could, people who are interested could go drive over and just see?
There are,
Weren't those pictures of locations near Pelican Preserve?
yeah, one's on 80, Randy had found one on 82
behind the dairy.
behind Dairy
Yeah.
Queen, that development there.
So that's the one that the residents went and looked at.
Okay.
And they preferred this just because A, it's more likely to get passed, but it's less money. And that they want it to happen. And B, that's the only thing I asked them to approve. If I need to go back to everyone yet again,
Yeah.
I think that's a delay tactic that's maybe not necessary. It's been going on for years.
I mean, I think, this is Danny Klein, I think if the community has agreed to go with this option, we should proceed with it. It's in their best interest, it's in the best interest of the community. I understand Bob's comment that it involves all of Pelican Preserve, but the purpose of it, the main purpose is to reduce the noise level and slow drivers down going into the town center. So for a safety perspective and working with the community that's most negatively impacted by it, I agree, we should go with this option and just go forward. We can always paint it a different color. We can always paint it brown or red if we needed to. But we need to proceed with it. That's my opinion.
Other comments?
I tend to agree. I think that we kicked this can down the road as far as.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion, this is
Well-
Danny Clements making a motion to accept the community's request to go forward with the speed hump as designed in
Okay.
page number 66.
Okay. We have a second? Okay. Yep. All right. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So we do have one opposed.
No,
No?
I was in favor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were voting when I asked opposed. Okay, no problem.
I was slow to react. I was in favor.
Redacted.
All right, so then, our Daniel, we'll have to work to get quotes for that work then.
Yes,
Okay, terrific.
which should be
Thank
fairly.
you.
So we're
easy
moving
because
forward with
it's a
just the
standard
plain
design.
concrete, plain concrete standard speed hump.
Correct.
Then they
Okay.
put the speed hump on top of that.
Are you gonna give that to Jeff or?
Make copies, but I don't want to give my own copies.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I knew who was going to be giving it to Jennifer so that.
And I will make one note, we need to address the vehicles that was brought up, possibility of vehicles driving over the grass in the future, as a future discussion.
If it turns out
If
to
it
be an
turns out
issue.
that.
Yeah.
Always idiots. No bother. Bollards are out.
This is Peggy. Did we make any, is there a final decision on the site line?
The report Dean can probably address that, but that was changed.
Yeah.
And Dean, am I correct?
I could not hear the question. I'm sorry, Dan.
The line of sight that was adjusted, has that been approved?
Well,
thought it turned out
that's
it
also
wasn't
attached
working
to the
anymore.
document. I wanted to speak
Yeah.
about that. As far as the line
I think
of
they
sight is
decided it
concerned,
wasn't.
the surveyor has revised the line of sight and the drawing was attached to the agenda. I don't know if anyone has seen that. Or yeah, there it is. Okay. So the line of sight has been changed and the trees that were in blocking the line of sight last time we talked are no longer blocking that line of sight. The triangle has been modified as shown. It used to go 25 feet back from the gutter line. And now it goes back 14.5 feet from the gutter line. And what that does is shift the triangle so that it avoids it avoids all of those trees and that shrubbery, etc. There may need to be some hedges that need to be trimmed down a little, but the trees themselves are no longer in the line of sight, as you can see on this drawing. Now, I don't know whether Gateway whether the district has brought the city back out, has informed the city as to, this change yet, but the layout by the surveyor has been revised.
I'm actually checking, this is Laura. I'm checking to see, this is the first I've seen of the revised survey. It didn't make it across my desk. So, I'm the one that's been in the contact with the city. I just reached out to see if anyone else has let them know or sent this revised survey to them. If they have not, I will do that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thanks, Laura.
I know I haven't, Laura.
I've been the main point of contact for the whole thing. I was just checking with Chelsea to make sure she hadn't done it. Because I honestly, this is the first time I've seen this drawing, or I would have sent it already.
Laura, for your information, when you're talking with the city, the point, the triangle was previously laid out along the center line of the monument on Vicenza, when it should have been from the center line of the exit lane from Vicenza. So this drawing shifts that triangle that way as well.
Yeah, it's very obvious. And to me anyway, when I'm looking at this, that's what they did.
So you're not gonna take down the monument, the rest is kind of silly.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. I think we might be
I
ready.
want to add.
Oh, yes.
that the restaurants on that corner about this. Your bike home, and someone knocked on the door and said, "You have no say over this, we're cutting down all of your trees."
Wow.
They're in their 80s. They're very active. She was so upset that she fell and broke her arm and shattered her elbow. He's had a stroke. She's taking care of him. And that's really how, I mean, it's.
That's just ridiculous.
It's a horrible story. And, they just. And they don't know who it was. They're in their 80s. They wrote down names. They said 2 people came, one from the city, who told me that the tree was fine. And then someone else from the surveying company. Who represented themselves as an employee of the city, but was not really. So I just would like that kind of thing to not happen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can't see where that would be a problem with this drawing. This is. There's no reason to touch any of their shrub.
Well, like Dean said, those hedges may need to be trimmed out a little bit, but that's it. You know, yeah.
Yeah, this area here is all.
Right, exactly. Minimal, very minimal.
Okay, I think we might be ready to move on to the next agenda item, which is about pressure washing. Dan, you were the one who submitted this. I never know. if
Yeah,
the submitter's the.
I've got that one.
Okay,
One
good.
second. Let me pull it up. So this is already actually, Bob last week got this to go across the Board of Supervisors desk and approved it. This is kind of retroactively bringing it to your attention of what we were moving forward with. It is a Kubota, which is the bin track combo with a pressure washing system that is installed on it. So you have a tractor that is now a portable pressure washer that does sidewalks, curbs. It's got a wand. It's got all the above. Right now, as it stands across the board annually, we spend about upward of $60,000 in pressure washing services that we contract out across the board. And this item itself is roughly about $55,000, so that we would be able to take that in-house. Attached in here are both of the quotes. You'll see the actual swirly part, that's the pressure washer itself, is $19,812. And we've got the option for the
I can't hear Daniel. He's lost connection or.
Yeah, I'm guessing we lost him again.
Laura and it sounded like Daniel was saying this is this has already been presented to the Board of Supervisors and approved?
No, it needs to run up from you guys to PPAC and then there.
First of all, do we have a new employee?
We do not have an employee
Because
hired
originally
specifically
that new
for,
employee-
hang on. We don't have an employee specifically for Pelican yet. We have been reaching out and trying to interview people. We've been having a hard time getting people to respond. But with that being said, we do have coverage from our existing maintenance staff working over there to make sure everything's getting done.
In my memory, our actual spend was more like $20,000 a year, but that was when we got monthly updates as far as what our spends were and the ongoing data.
Yep, I'm working on that. I'm working on that.
So if we had a few years worth of those actual spends, rather than say, well, now, 65,000 is a budget, it may be a fraudulent number. I believe it's inflated. So now we're going to add another person, and then I heard Chelsea say, well, we'll buy the equipment. Well, apparently what that means is that she will allow us to order and pay for this equipment. And we had no idea what that might cost to begin with. So we don't have, in my opinion, the basic information that we need to even really discuss this meaningfully.
Understood. And I did reply. I saw your email. I did reply to your message just saying that I have to.
Yeah, I did get that. I appreciate that. It just boggles my mind that you can put all that detail of invoice after invoice after invoice, which makes it so obtuse that you can't get anything out of it. And we can't come up with, what did we spend last month?
But no, but the thing is,
annual
because
spend
I don't
on
have
these?
access to the accounting system that Castle had. The invoice stuff that Bob showed you, that's from our accounting system. And I can, if your invoices were tracked by line item in our accounting system, I would be able to reproduce that. But because Castle was paying those bills and there was a lump sum that went against one line item in our budget, I don't have any way to break that out without going back and looking at every single expense reimbursement that was submitted.
So that line item budget. Now, none of us were involved in it. I wasn't involved with that in safety and security or PPAC. And safety and security is never known.
We're out of
Randy,
because
you just
don't know
muted.
we're talking about
Randy, you're
something else.
muted. Hang on. Randy was talking. He got muted somehow.
I'll remember you had something to say.
Okay.
It's hard when we keep getting dropped.
Okay, so Daniel, you were explaining about the swirly machine. Randy had some concerns about the cost and what we've actually spent on pressure washing versus what the cost of this machine is. Is this cost being shared between the district and Pelican, or is Pelican being asked to foot the entire bill and then this machine will live over there?
So as I see it right now, it's going to belong to Pelican. I'll have to go back and look at it if we're going to share it. That's something I'd have to talk with Chelsea about.
Randy, you're muted.
Right,
Somebody muted Randy. He's trying to talk and we can't hear him.
no, it's Randy.
Is it? Okay, sorry.
Randy, unmute.
I can't see that he's talking.
Yes, he's talking, but he's not unmuted.
Oh, no.
There you go.
Oh, it's better.
Randy did submit a request this morning for 3 years worth of data on the pressure washing costs. Because the Pelican Preserve stuff was not tracked in our accounting system, it's going to take me a little bit to get that information because I have to go back and look at every single expense reimbursement for the last 3 years and pull out anything that was spent on that. So it'll take me a little bit to put that together, but I will have that data. He requested that without that data, that we wait to make a decision because he didn't feel that we could make an informed decision without knowing what we've actually spent and that the $65,000 seems inflated.
Well, I can say that it's already been approved by the board. This is a retroactive item that is just being brought to your attention. So,
how does that happen? I thought Seems
Uh,
like our processes are getting.
one
rebuilt.
name.
Yeah, the board doesn't normally approve things until they've at least gone past P-PAC.
I agree, Laura.
What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call on people because we keep talking on top of each other, and it's nobody's fault. It's just that we can't hear you guys sometimes and you can't hear us. So hold on, I think Carol's got the floor now.
Yes, it was not an agenda item, but under member issues, that came up at the last CDD meeting. Bob brought up the fact that we needed this, pressure washer machine. And that it's a 4 to 6 month lag time, after you order it. And so he made the motion right then and there to purchase it for the 55,000 some odd dollars so that we could get in the queue to get this particular machine. So this actually has been approved by the CDD board. And I'm assuming that you are moving ahead. If nothing else, we appreciate the comments, and next time we'll tell Bob he's got to go through committee for.
This is Laura. I did
Or that's how it came
express
about.
that. Yeah.
Okay, Laura.
I let him know that it would be a 2-week delay because instead of, I wanted to bring it to P-PAC. I wanted to give you guys a chance to review it as a safety and security committee, take it to P-PAC, and then bring it back on the 16th of November to the board's meeting then. So I tried. I'm just letting you guys know.
Yeah, I even put it into the system that order, so it just
Bob jumped
it got
agendas by a
front loaded
month.
to the front side. So
Okay, so what, so you're
So
just,
moving forward.
so the idea here is you're just telling us what you're going to do on this. There's no need to vote or discuss it any further. We might as well move along.
Ours is out of the.
correct.
Okay.
And then, Daniel, this is picking up, you'll just be looking. at-
And then will you guarantee
Wait,
that
we've
it's?
got
it
some
belongs-
conversation here, Randy. Hold on.
Yes, I will be looking at the funding to see how we break it up. I've just got to sit down with Chelsea and Laura, and see if there will be cost sharing if we do use it outside of Pelican. If not, it'll be all dedicated to Pelican, one way or the other.
Talking about the finance.
So the financing is the exact same cost, no matter what. It's a fixed price. There's no difference in variable rates or anything like that. It's just whether or not we want to do it over a 36, 48, or 60-month period. So it makes our monthly payment smaller and less impact off the top. And we can just appreciate that item across the board. But it's the exact same price, the exact same cost.
My
Yeah.
math came out different, but maybe I understand what I was reading. I was taking the number of months times the payment per month, multiplying it out.
No, not correct.
Well,
So it's the it's a monthly. There is a fixed cost, and that does not change over each option. All three options is the exact same fixed cost. The only thing that is different is what it makes the monthly payment be. So your monthly payment will either be higher or lower based on how much you try to compress it or expand it. Yeah.
Oh, is it the 19,000?
No, 19,000 is a fixed cost. Yes, that one is a straight up fixed cost, and that's for the pressure washing system that goes on the tractor. The tractor is a fixed cost as well. It's just whether we want to do it over 36 months, 48 or 60. It's the exact same cost regardless. Yeah.
We're not financing that 19,000 part is strictly the 36,000.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
gotcha. That's what I did wrong. Okay, thank you. Randy, did you have something to say? Sorry, we were having a discussion here. You just can't hear us, I think.
Well, I guess if this is already done after the fact, why do we discuss it further? There's nothing to vote on. You've broken all the protocol that we've operated on as long as I've been here. And I can't believe what I'm hearing, to tell you the truth.
Okay, well, understand.
I understand. So what?
Well, I think
What does PPAC get to decide on?
he might
Do
not
we
have
have-
to.
What does PPAC get to decide on? We don't have you hide the information as far as the costs are concerned, so we don't have a choice. Why can't we just go ahead with continuing to hire this out as needed until we get some of this information together. And if we decide, if we find out we ever can get a candidate,
Maybe you can come over here and talk to
we could end up with a piece of equipment sitting for months, and nobody run it. At this point, right now, we've had 3 project directors in 10 months. Now, you're trying to spend all this money in upfront without knowing if we can find somebody who will stick around and even do the work.
Okay. Carol's gonna come over and address something. You just can't.
Randy, can you hear me? This is Carol Pancock.
I can.
Okay, this was not an agenda item on our last CDD meeting. And when it came to member comments, Bob brought this forward. He said there was a 4 to 6 month wait time on this type of equipment, that this had not been through PPAC, not been through the committee, but that because we need this thing and he wanted it brought forward. So he made the motion right then and there to go ahead and buy it. And the rest of us said, do we need it? And they said, yes, and this is what we need. And so it went through the CDD board. I think this is more informational for you guys. And next time we will say, no, you've got to go through PPAC and you've got to go through the committee. I think Bob was rambunctious in his wanting to get this equipment, and maybe we'll remind him next time that not to be so rambunctious. So that's what happened. Would you like me to call you later, Randy, and explain it again, or not, or what?
No, I think it's pretty clear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else before we adjourn? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I didn't see it right here.
It has, been doing the,
Oh, yeah.
surveys and street lights and street signs and stuff. And some of the older neighborhoods, I noticed that all of the crosswalks on the stop bars, as the stop signs, are virtually non-existent. They're so worn. That's just a question for Dave. Do we have a full-time maintenance person? Is that something that they could paint those, or is that even something that they could do, or would it require a contractor?
I can say right now that it's being contracted out. I don't know if you drove past them on your way in here today. There are some contractors. I'm in the process of trying to get a striper for the field permanently on our inventory, and that may be an option for that in the future. It's
I
not
understand the main boulevards, it's probably better to have a contractor do it, but in some of the neighborhoods where it's just the crosswalks or a stop bar type onesie twosie type things, I thought it might be good to have that capability in-house.
we might be able to do it in the future. So some that I'll take under advisement.
There's a need that I think the group either has to look at the ability to do it in-house, or maybe look at that.
Well, there's other things to consider into it as well, as when you go out to a third party vendor, there's a warranty that comes along with it, is, you know, some stuff beyond just taking it on in-house, plus training people to be able to do it and make sure that it is correct.
Yeah.
We'll give you a paintbrush.
All right.
Roller.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Danny Clemens makes a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Your second.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
All opposed?